How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another First Descendant video. Now today we're going to be going over Luna's DPS, and I just gotta say that Luna has by far been the Descendant that I've covered that's gotten the most hate as a Descendant in general. And personally, I don't think that the hate is warranted. I think she does a great job at supporting what she is meant to do, but in this current meta of Lepix one-shotting bosses and the state that the game's in, which is honestly, in my opinion, a pretty bad state when it comes to intercept battles, Luna doesn't really have as much value as she should have, because why bring a Luna to buff when you could just load up an intercept battle solo and have a Lepic? But hopefully in the future that will change, and without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. First, we're going to take a look at the module that you need in order to DPS with Luna, which is Noise Surge. This is dropped from the new intercept boss, Gluttony, and you must kill him in order to get this. Or you can combine modules and try to get this as one of the return modules once you combine 4 modules. Those are the only 2 places that you can acquire the Noise Surge mod for Luna. Now moving on to Luna's passive, Improvisation. When using a skill to hit the note, Inspiration Gauge goes up. When the Inspiration Gauge maxes out, an enhanced skill can be used. Using an enhanced skill completely depletes Inspiration Gauge. However, when failing to hit the note, Inspiration Gauge goes down and the skill fails to activate. While out of combat for a certain period of time, Inspiration Gauge is completely depleted. So the important thing to know here is that when you have your Inspiration Gauge completely full and you're ready to use an enhanced ability, if you mistime that skill and you do not hit it at the correct time, you're going to lose a portion of your Inspiration Gauge and the skill will not activate. So make sure that you're timing these abilities correctly, so that way you're not wasting your Inspiration Gauge and missing your chance to use your enhanced ability. And for the basic info, Inspiration Gauge limit times 10, Inspiration Gauge increases on note success by 1 and it decreases by 1 every time you fail. And the Inspiration Gauge recovery on enhanced state failure is 4. And finally, Inspiration Gauge depleted out of combat for 20 seconds. So if you're not in combat or fighting anything actively for 20 seconds, you're going to lose all of your inspiration. Now moving on to Luna's first ability, Stage Presence. Equip a unique weapon. It will be unequipped when MP is fully depleted or all bullets have been fired. When the unique weapon is equipped, Notes activates, allowing the use of skills. Notes can be hit through shooting and skill use. If the skill button is not pressed at the right time, the skill will fail to activate. Failing to hit notes through shooting significantly reduces MP. A couple quick things to note for Luna's Stage Presence is, one, most importantly, this unique weapon does take mods off of the weapon you currently have equipped in your hand when you activate this ability. So if you come from Warframe, you'd be familiar with the term stat stick, but if you're not, essentially it just means that you're giving your weapon a couple buffs from the mods that the weapon did have equipped. And I'll show you exactly what I mean here in a second. And the next important thing I wanted to mention is that when you do use an ability correctly timed, you do gain 10 shots into your Stage Presence and it caps out at 55 bullets. Basic info. Cooldown 15 seconds for my build, base is 10. This is the only ability to get affected by cooldown mods or cooldown in general, except for when you miss the note, which does have an increased cooldown. But other than that, if you're hitting the notes correctly, cooldown does not matter on Luna for her support or for her DPS. For the damage, it's your skill power times a 289.5% modifier for my build, base it's 193.4, and if you were to fire this weapon without correctly timing it, you would get a minus 45 to your MP. As for bullet recovery, as I said, you get 10 shots every time you activate an ability correctly timed. Now moving on to Luna's second ability, we have Exciting Surge. Skill description. Upon successfully hitting the note, deals damage to nearby enemies and grants self the Largo effect. This effect stacks. Failing to hit the note decreases stacks. Should the note be incorrect, the stacks are reset. At 0 stacks, the Largo effect is removed. Now what it means when it says failing to hit the note decreases stacks, this doesn't mean if you miss it, it means if you just let the note pass by. So every note that passes by on your screen, even if you're allowing it to pass by, it does decrease the amount of stacks you have with Largo. And this goes for every single one of her damage abilities. Another thing to note really quickly is that when I activate Exciting Surge and I get the Largo effect, I can't actually shoot my Stage Presence in order to gain more stacks, and this does stack up to 26 max. I can gain my stacks by shooting my weapon rather than reactivating my ability if that's what I choose to do. However, while shooting my weapon does gain stacks towards Largo, it does not reset the duration. So when I see that the Largo effect is about to run out, I'll have to reactivate the Largo ability, or the Exciting Surge ability, to refresh my stacks of Largo duration. Basically what I'm saying is that if you want to raise your stacks to 26 and you don't want to press the ability over and over using your MP, you can use your weapon to raise your stacks, but you do need to reactivate Exciting Surge on time in order to refresh the duration of your Largo buff. And I could throw a quick little video demonstration that I recorded showing you how you can keep all 3 buffs up at all times, but you do have to build up these stacks first. Once you get max stacks, you can actually keep max stacks of all 3 buffs 24/7. For the basic info of Exciting Surge, we have on note success, 0-second cooldown, 20 MP cost, damage is your skill power times 240.1% for my build, 144% base. Damage range is 6 meters base, but with my build I have 15.7. The max expendable range is 250%, so we're actually 0.7 meters over the maximum range. So that 0.7 can be kind of reduced if you want to min-max, but this extra 0.7 is mostly coming from my reactor that I use for her, and we'll go over that a little bit later. And for the enhanced version of Exciting Surge, we have damage is the skill power times 244.1% skill power modifier. Damage range is 15.7 meters, shield recovery 50%, MP recovery 50%. What this means is that when I get to my enhanced ability stage, so when my inspiration gauge is full and I use an ability, all 3 abilities do give you 50% shield back and 50% of your MP back. On note failure, I have a 22.5 second cooldown and a 23 MP cost. So if I mistime the note, that's what I'm penalized with. And the Largo effect itself gives you a skill critical hit rate of 1% for 14.5 seconds, and this builds up to 26 stacks, so you can get 26% skill critical hit rate for 14.5 seconds every time you use Exciting Surge. Now moving on to Luna's third ability, we have Relaxing Surge. Skill description: upon successfully hitting the note, deals damage to nearby enemies and grants self crescendo effect. This effect stacks. Failing to hit the note decreases stacks. Should the note be incorrect, the stacks are reset. At 0 stacks, the crescendo effect is removed. So the cooldown 0 seconds, the MP cost is 20, the damage is skill power times 240.1% with a 15.7 meter range, caps out at 15 meters. The enhanced version is a skill power times a 244.1% with the same range, shield recovery, and MP recovery of 50%. Again, this is the same from her second to her third ability, the only difference in the abilities being the buffs that they give you. No failure, 22 second cooldown, 23 MP cost, and the crescendo effect itself gives you skill critical hit damage of 1% for 14.5 seconds at a max stacks of 26, so giving you 26% skill critical hit damage increase for 14.5 seconds when you're at max stacks. And moving on to Luna's fourth ability, Cheerful Surge. Skill description: upon successfully hitting the note, deals damage to nearby enemies, grants the self Forte effect. This effect stacks. Failing to hit the note decreases stacks. Should the note be incorrect, the stacks are reset to 0, and the Forte effect is removed. Cooldown 0 seconds, MP cost 20, damage skill power times 240.1%, damage range 15 meters, enhanced skill power times 244.1%, 15.7 meters range, shield recovery and MP recovery 50%, cooldown 22.5, MP cost 23 if you fail the note, and the Forte effect itself gives you a skill power modifier increase of 1% for 14.5 seconds with a max stacks of 26, giving you 26% skill power modifier increase for 14.5 seconds at max stacks. Now I know I kind of went over that one a little fast. As I said, everything is the exact same from her second ability to her third ability in terms of the note success and note failure. The only difference is what the different buffs give. So Largo, Forte, and Crescendo all give different buffs to you. Now that we've gone over all of Luna's abilities, we're going to go straight into the modules. So we're going to start at the top left with Noise Surge. When using skill, deals damage to nearby enemies but doesn't buff allies. Grants a stackable buff to Luna that is enhanced with each stack. I've gone over how to get this, with the 2 places you can get this from. And when you're using an ability, so every time you use your second, third, or fourth ability, every click of an ability when it's timed correctly is going to release a AoE burst damage, and that's how you're going to be doing your damage. It's kind of similar to Bunny's third ability, how it pulses with damage every so often, but for you, it's every time you hit the note. And it does go in a circle radius like Bunny's does as well, and it's a pretty decently sized radius. It's 15 meters, which isn't too bad. I did want to take a second to touch on Luna's damage in general. So for ad clearing or farming, Luna's damage is perfectly fine. It's actually very good. She does do really good damage to open world bosses, even dungeon bosses, but when it comes to intercept fights, Luna's damage falls off completely. No matter what I tried to do, I cannot get her to be relevant for DPSing in a void intercept battle because your gun can't hit the weak point. It tracks to the center of the target. you're not doing good damage with your skills. You're forced to stay relatively close at all times because you're going to want to use your AoE, which is only 15 meters, which is a decent range, but you know, sometimes you need to run away from the boss. She's just not very viable at all in terms of DPSing and void intercepts. But for open worlds or any kind of farming activity, if she's your main descendant, they did give her a very good kit for farming things, and it's nice. You can just kind of stand there if you need to clear a 15-meter area. So in short, she is good for AoE, but she's not good for single target. And really quickly, we're going to go down to our sub module. Now, I use long distance maneuvering. The other best option would be mid-air maneuvering, your choice. And next we have skill expansion. Skill expansion just gives us 92.3% range on our abilities. And we have front lines, which gives us skill critical hit damage and skill critical hit rate. Now, the crit mods are very important for Luna's DPS. These are the best mods to slot in because her abilities really shine when they do crit. So you're going to want to be critting as much as you possibly can to get the most damage out of Luna that you can. Moving on from front lines, we have non-attribute specialist. Non-attribute specialist gives you a 81.2% non-attribute skill power, and amplification control gives us 45% skill effect range and 31.7% shield. Now, instead of amplification control, if you wanted to, you could opt for frugal mindset, but the skill cost doesn't really matter too much, but it is a good option to opt for as well. I had a root tile slotted in here because I formed Luna, or I put catalysts into Luna for her support mainly. So this is kind of what I'm left over with. A frugal mindset is also a great option. This does give you 31.7% shield, which isn't too bad because when you do activate an enhanced ability, you do get 50% of your shield back. So there's a way to regain your shield with Luna, so shield isn't too bad to have. Moving on from amplification control, we have increased HP. Again, a staple in a lot of my Descendant builds, 218.5% HP. That and Luna does have high base HP, so she scales very well with these max HP mods. Then we have emergency measures. This gives skill critical hit rate and skill critical hit damage. As I said, skill critical hit rate and damage is a must on Luna. And we have Spear and Shield, which gives me a 8.1% skill power. This is the only reason I run Spear and Shield because it's very cheap, and it's a very cheap 8.1% skill power. Plus it's a raw boost to your skill power and additive. So this is a really good mod to slot in for very low cost and 22% defense. If you don't have it upgraded, it's whatever, but it's something. And finally, we have maximize power. Now the other option would be maximize skill and swapping out non-attribute specialist because you can't have battle in battle. But I did the testing and this comes out to the most damage. So even if I did put on maximize power and maximize skill, you still don't reach more damage than with non-attribute specialist and maximize power. So this is going to be the best combo to get the most damage out of your Luna. I did go over every combination you could use for damage modules to increase Luna's damage, and this is the best that you can get. Now, if I missed something or if there's something better, let me know in the comment section and tell me why it's better. Maybe I made a mistake, but from my testing and everything I went over, this is the two best you can combine, or well, three best, including these here, to get the most damage out of her abilities. That being non-attribute specialist, spear and shield, and maximize power. I wanted to take a second to drop in really quickly. I forgot to mention a couple mods in this build. So if you wanted to swap out spear and shield, again, if you had more catalyst than I did or more space, you can drop out spear and shield and put a skill insight in, which is honestly very, very good for Luna. As I said, you want skill critical hit rate and damage as much as you can. So if you wanted to swap out the spear and shield for a skill insight, you can, or throw it up here in the top right if you have space. And then another one is multi-talented. Now multi-talented is really good because you're going to be getting the all attribute damage plus 30% when you use anything singular, which is going to be all three of your AoE damaging abilities. And you're primarily going to be using your AoE damage abilities. So multi-talented is also another very good slot here if you want to get rid of the spear and shield, or again, if you have the space, multi-talented here and skill inside the top right. I forgot to mention those in the video, so I apologize for that, and I'll let you guys get right back to it. Now that's going to cover all the modules for max damage Luna. Now if we go over here to my other preset, we actually have one that is basically the same, opts for more MP management. If you're struggling with MP, you just slot in MP collector. This is going to help you get MP when defeating an enemy. So you recover 12.2% of max MP at a 17% chance. So if you're mobbing with Luna and you're running out of MP, which can happen, just slot in MP collector and you'll have no problems at all. Now a couple mods that I also wanted to mention is going to be RK Concretion. RK Concretion is an ultimate support tech module. So it states when using skill, grants 1 stack of RK Concretion for 20 seconds. When using enhanced skill, grants 10 stacks up to 30 stacks max. RK Concretion reduces all attribute power by 22%, excluding non-attribute attack, movement speed, and firearm attack, regardless of the number of stacks. Depending on number of stacks, defense plus 1.05% and MP plus 0.65%. However, when using roll or grappling hook, all stacks will be removed. So what this mod does essentially is it gives you defense and MP based on the number of stacks you have. Now this is not for her DPS loadout. You would not use this for DPSing. This is purely for support. But I wanted to mention this and I wanted to show an updated guide or build for my support Luna, which I'll go over very shortly. I'm just going to show you guys the modules. And if you want to go back and watch my Luna support build, you can do that. But these are the updated modules that I slotted in. And this is one of the ultimate modules that I would slot in for my support build, if you want to do that. Remember, you can't roll or grapple, and I know it's tough to not do that. So decide for yourself if you want to use this, but if you could get used to that, then this could be a very good mod for yourself. So as I said very quickly, I'm going to show you guys my Luna support modules. Now, it was very tough to forma for support and have enough space for DPS without ruining the support. So when Nexon brings out this new system where you're able to format each tab individually for different builds, it's going to be very nice. But as of right now, as you see, I have 2 slots for Almadine and Xantic, and there's not much that I can slot into here that would help out my support. But I can't format any other slots for my support because then it kind of messes up my DPS. It's not too big of a deal, but this is going to be the updated support build that I would use. Nothing major changed here, but I just wanted to give you guys a little update. And again, if you wanted to slot in the RK Concretion, if your Luna is a little more built or format out, you could swap out Frugal Mindset in exchange for the RK Concretion and then upgrade this. Just another option for you guys to use. That's going to cover all of the modules for Luna. Now we're going to move on to our weapons and our reactors. So my weapons don't really matter on Luna. The only one that matters is my Afterglow Sword. And the reason why the Afterglow Sword is the one that matters is because of my reactor. So my optimization condition is the Afterglow Sword mounting. So I must have the Afterglow Sword mounted in order to get the 160% skill power. Now, when I switch to my first ability, if the Afterglow Sword was the weapon I had in hand, it takes the Afterglow Sword over, not only taking some of the mods from the Afterglow Sword, but giving us that optimization condition as well. You're not able to use any of your weapons when you're using Luna because you have to switch off of stage presence and go back to your weapons, which loses your buffs and defeats the purpose of her whole damage rotation. So the only one that really matters is the weapon you need mounted to reach your optimization condition for your reactor. So we're going to take a look at the mods really quickly, and I'm going to show you the stat stick mods that affect Luna's stage presence. So these are all mods that the stage presence takes from the weapon. So we have Fire Rate Up for increased fire rate, Colonel Special Forces for movement speed while aiming, Expand Weapon Charge for bullets in your stage presence when you first activate it, and then Magazine Compulsive for more rounds per magazine, and then Analysis Master. So on hit, enemy's firearm critical hit resistance minus 25% for 10 seconds. Now because this says on hit, this means that anything that hits an enemy gets firearm critical hit resistance minus 25%. That means abilities or weapon, or in your case, it would only be abilities because stage presence is still considered an ability. So this is a very good support type of module that your stage presence does take. So keep in mind these mods, and remember you're not using your weapon when you're on Luna. So unless you plan on switching out of stage presence and using your weapon, the stat stick mods and the mods you throw on don't really matter. Now moving on to our reactor, which we touched on shortly, it is an Afterglow Sword mounting with a non-attribute skill power boost and a singular skill power boost. This is the best to go for because all 3 of your abilities are singular. The only one that's not is your stage presence, which is tech, but you're mostly relying on the damage from your 3 buff abilities, and those abilities also give you your AoE damage. Then we have a skill critical hit rate and a skill effect range. Now what I would change on this reactor is I would take skill effect range and switch it for skill critical hit damage. Really all you need for this build on Luna is skill critical hit rate and damage. You want to crit more and you want to do more damage. Then moving on to our external components, we use a full Slayer set. The reason we use the Slayer set is because we get the skill power plus 26.1%. That's the only reason. Now you could try to use the Hungry Sonic set because it does have an interaction with Luna, but looking at the Hungry Sonic set here, it looks like it mostly affects your MP, which isn't a problem for Luna. And then when you get to 50 stacks of Efflux, you get tuning for 200 seconds, which gives you skill duration plus 1.79% proportional to your max MP. So the more MP you have, I guess the bigger the boost will be, or the longer the duration will be. Plus you get HP heal modifier. So it doesn't look like anything super special or anything you have to get. Plus Gluttony is a pretty hard boss to farm for a lot of people. So you're 100% fine going with the Slayer set and just getting that skill power damage. And with using the Slayer set, you're set to certain stats you're going to get because of the drops on them. But if you look at mine for the auxiliary power, we have defense max HP. Then we have max shield and max MP for the Slayer sensor. Now max MP is very, very good. Try to get this one for Luna or just any Descendant that uses abilities. Max shield and defense for the Slayer memory. And for the Slayer processor, max HP and max shield. And taking a look at Luna's stats over here on the left, we have 127,000 firearm attack, 18,000 skill power, 11,900 defense, 1,700 max shield, 8,800 max HP, and 441 max MP. The only thing I've encountered so far in the game that these stats don't hold up against would probably be Gluttony's Ice Shotgun. If you get hit by that, this will almost kill you, leaving you pretty weak. But other than that, you're not going to have any problem surviving with these stats at all. And that's pretty much going to do it for this build video, guys. If you have any questions, cares, or concerns, feel free to use the comment section down below. This was all tested live on twitch.tv/EEFANN. I do stream almost every day. And if you ever want to come and watch us test, or if you want to give your opinion or your input on what modules I should try, then come over and hang out with us. We do have a lot of fun. Sometimes I do viewer help and we do intercept battles together, or if I'm farming something, I do bring viewers with me so that way you guys can benefit as well. But as I said, if there's anything you see in this video that you feel is incorrect, or anything you could add to make the video a little bit better, use the comment section. I do like the constructive criticism. It helps me help you guys a little bit better and gets the correct information out there. But thank you guys all so much for watching. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.